Hi everyone. So I am here with Krystal Merrills, right? And she's going to be talking about how she actually went from pretty much like ground zero at the time. We met back in November of, was that
Not
2019?
not last year, but the year before, so 2019. Yeah.
It's hard to believe that it's been that long. To where she is currently, where she's at around 6,000 a month. She's gotten her business up there before. And so today she's going to share about the three different things that she changed in her business to be able to actually get to that monthly income, as well as just kind of overall what her transformation has been, right? And what she changed and what changed, because I think you also wanted to talk about not just what changed for you revenue wise, but also just what changed in general too for you,
Mhm.
right? So why
Mhm.
don't we just start out by, I would love to hear a little bit about kind of where you were when we first met, right, back in November, and kind of where your business was at that time.
Yeah, it was in a deep, dark hole at the bottom of the pit. So yeah, when we met, I had made the decision to do private practice after months of trying to find a job, like a regular job. Which I didn't really want, but I was like, I gotta make money. I guess I'll go get a regular job. But yeah, as you know, Natalie, I was
Mm-hmm.
doing this like while recovering from multiple concussions, and so I live with this brain injury and the effects of that. And at that time, I was really struggling. Like early in the spring, earlier that year, I had another concussion that was really horrible, and I had kind of lost my previous regular job because of the concussions. So I was looking for regular jobs with much trepidation because I was like, nobody's going to be able to accommodate me. and
Yeah.
I don't want to have to bring this up in a workplace again because my previous workplace like discriminated against me, which wasn't great. So yeah, so I just kind of hit that point where I was like, I should just work for myself. Like I will accommodate myself better than anyone else, hopefully. So I was like, all right, let's do this private practice thing. And I had tried private practice once, like several years before, and I didn't like it at all. I had no idea what I was doing. I like was associated with a clinic, but was like barely getting clients, and then like I didn't have a niche, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So again, I'm like, okay, well, let's try this private practice thing, but I was like really nervous about it
Yeah.
because I didn't want to have that same experience that I had before. So before we met, like I didn't pick a niche, and I was just like, well, let's see if I'll just hold some webinars, and hopefully some people will come. And
I
like,
remember, and you had like printed out these little pamphlet things. Remember those?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I got my business cards, I got pamphlets, I got
Yeah.
like postcards. Like I handed all this stuff out, and like it didn't work. It didn't work. What a surprise. So, but that's kind of what we're led to believe is it's like, first thing you got to do, get your business card, like set
Right.
up your
I did the
website.
same thing whenever I first started too. I was like, business cards, pronto. And I didn't use those things.
Well, I still have a huge stack of
Yeah.
them. You know, but,
I don't
but
know
yeah,
who's spreading this message of print business cards, though, to be honest. Maybe it's the business card companies and we just don't realize it, right? They're just.
I mean, like, it's been handy a couple of times, but really that's not where like my clients come from, right? So in any event, so yeah, so I'd done all those things, and it kind of fell flat, and I didn't know what to do next, and you reached out, thank God.
I'm really glad we met, Krystal. I'm so happy that we met, right? And your story is just really incredible of kind of where you were with your business before. And then I think this is a great time to also go into kind of what your niche is currently, right? Because I know because when we spoke, you were like, this is something I want to go into, but can I even get clients in this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So being a part of the like concussion and brain injury community, like for a long time, I've been seeing people have nutrition questions or struggle with nutrition, and there's lots of very restrictive diets and supplements that come up as general advice. But being someone who is living the experience, who, you know, I went through where I could not cook, I could not go to the grocery store, I couldn't follow a recipe to save my life, even if it was one I'd made several times before. Like, I living the experience of having so little energy and so many cognitive challenges, I was like, this is not nutrition that people need that's being put out there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't seeing anybody.
There wasn't an expert in the field in nutrition in that at all.
No, there wasn't anyone coming with the sort of background that I come with, which is like, instead of just looking at individual nutrients, let's look at the whole person as a person who is struggling to just make a sandwich. Like, how do we make nutrition real and not stress people out over food? And so I was seeing it, and I was like, this is what I want to do, and what people, you know, in my kind of brain injury community here have asked me to do, but I never felt confident that I could. I was like, I don't know, can I even be an expert? Like, maybe there was like some imposter syndrome in there.
Yeah, right? You had a lot of that before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. So
I remember you had all these experiences, right? You knew how to get through it yourself. You have your entire dietetics background, but you were like, Natalie, am I able to actually charge for this? Right? I remember we had that as a discussion, right?
Yeah. And back to kind of what you were saying, like, can I actually get clients in this?
Yeah.
Because, you know, feeling like, again, being sort of in the community and understanding that, you know, there are a lot of therapies and there's a lot of money kind of that is invested in it, but it's like, you know, I see people perhaps investing money in things that will just create more stress in terms of nutrition, and like spending hundreds of dollars on supplements every month, and it's like those are what you're taking isn't going to help you. So it was like, yeah, no, obviously there is a niche for this, and there are people who want this and need this. So
yeah, I love that, Krystal. I love that. I think also now we should go into kind of, so before, when you had your business, right, and you just started, we weren't really getting clients from it, right, at the moment. We didn't have any clients. We didn't have a niche. We kind of decided, oh, maybe I want to go into this. Like, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I like. I know that there's a need for it. How do I actually get clients for it? But also, why don't we go into maybe what were your 3 biggest challenges, right? And then what did you change in your business that really made all the difference and allowed you to start getting consistent clients, right?
Yeah. So I would say, number 1, I think like you call it like mindset around money. But I think of it as my relationship with money. So I think
I like that. Maybe I'll start calling it your relationship with money.
Well, no,
it's so true though. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I was thinking of this the other day because, like, as a dietitian, I am constantly helping people with their relationship with food. I have a lot of people come to me who've been given a lot of diet advice, who've been told to like cut out everything under the sun, and their relationship with food has changed because they've had to restrict it, and whatnot and so forth. And I'm like, that's my issue, but with money.
Yeah.
My relationship with money was, you know, just so challenging to overcome. Like you said, like that fear. I was afraid to charge people.
This is so, we got to talk about this, because I have people come and talk to me and they're like, Natalie, I just really want to help people, right? Which I love. Okay, I love you all because you all have such giant hearts, right? I think that in this industry, most people don't get into it just for money, right? They get into it because they're like, I really want to help people. And I think that's a great thing. But then what happens is they're like, Oh, but how do I charge people money? Oh, but I feel really nervous bringing up money. Oh, but can I charge that much with people? Is it a bad thing? Am I a bad person?
Yeah.
Right? If I charge money, if I charge more money for what I actually offer. So I would love, Krystal, if you could talk a bit more about that, right? Because I know for you were nervous about all those things, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like, I come, and when I relate it to this metaphor of thinking about relationship with food, it's like that comes from a history of having difficult times with food. And for me, it's like, I've, having to do a dietetic internship that was unpaid for a year. Like, one, that's ridiculous.
So true, right?
It's ridiculous. How do you survive? But anyways, there's so many problems with it. But not having money and having to go through almost, I almost got down to zero at the end of that internship. So it's having that, and then going through my brain injury, which when I met you, I was, I think, 4 years out from anyways, I spent more of my adult life concussed than not. So it's very frustrating. But when I came to you, I was at the very bottom. I had gone through all of my savings, including my retirement savings, which was such a stab in the heart. The day I had to withdraw all of my retirement savings, I just cried thinking that I just saw my future go.
Oh God, I know. That's, you were just and it wasn't your fault at all too. And I think that's what was so horrible about the situation, is that none of it was your fault, right, at all. Yeah. And you were just trying to figure out how to survive, right, at that point. That's kind of what it was.
Exactly. It couldn't work. I tried to push through. That made me worse. That made my recovery take longer. And I mean, thank God I had savings, but at the same time, I was again, a second time in my life, almost down to zero. So coming with those experiences and then being and now you're going to charge people an appropriate amount of money. I was like, oh my gosh, I could, I can only just picture myself and how much, kind of I struggled with that. So it was a lot of overcoming that mindset of, not only is it okay to charge, but it's just to charge. Yeah. If another person in the brain injury community came to me and said oh, I'm trying to start my own business. I'm trying to start my own business because I can't work full time, blah, blah, blah. But, the people I'm approaching, they want me to do the work for free.
Yeah.
I would be appalled. I would be that is so unfair.
It's not okay. You're being taken advantage of, is what it is.
Exactly.
Could you also say how much you charge now too? Because I think that's important too for people. So if you're okay with that, but just so people know what you actually charge and what we're talking about.
Part of my hurdle, a part of my growing my relationship with money. So my program is I charge $2,100 for the program. But I'm realizing that the value of it is much higher.
It totally is.
I mean, when I look at just what I offer and what I do for people, and even just compared to other therapies that I maybe have gotten, I'm wow, I invested in myself more than this.
Yes. And then the value that you actually bring to those people's lives is incredible, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of this is your experience as a dietitian, but then also your experience, as you said, being concussed for most of your adult life, right? Yeah. And figuring out how to actually deal with that. And what's the reality of that? Then the perceived, this is what I think people are going through, right? This is something that you maybe get from doctors who haven't had experience with it themselves.
Yeah. And I, and I've had people give me testimonials of this was the best investment I could have made. I like how this is set up.
Yeah.
And, you know, and even going back to like doctors, like one of the, you know, the more you actually charge what you're worth, you see that other people see that too.
Yeah.
Like when you start to own that, like
People respect you when you have boundaries, right?
yeah,
People
yeah,
respect you. They don't respect you when you don't. That's the problem, right?
yeah, well, exactly. And like I remember talking with a doctor here. Like I'm in Canada, right? So there's dietitians aren't covered by healthcare, but you know, doctors' visits are. And there's this doctor that I connected with who also has like their own personal experience with concussion, and is like doing this program for concussion. And she was telling me how like, oh, and you know, I'm able to get it covered for people by like our provincial health care, you know, kind of thing, and da da da. And she was telling me all about, you know, how she was, you know, kind of covering the costs for people. And then she asked me, she's like, well, how much do you charge? And, you know, I immediately was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but then she said to me, she was like, you know, Krystal, I just met, she was like, I just met this other like professional who took like maybe like a 6-week training program in nutrition, and they are offering, and their program is over $2,000. So I really hope you're charging at least that. And so to have that come from, you know, just like
wow.
someone else in my healthcare system who is
Yeah.
like making the steps to like get their stuff covered as much as they can. And unfortunately, I can't do that.
Right.
It was just like, that was an eye opener of like, yeah, like there are people even within the healthcare system who recognize this value. And the more I talk to other healthcare providers and the more I'm just like open and honest with them of like, you know, I don't work the way I used, the typical way. I don't do one-off appointments anymore that never got anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
I work in this way, you know, and they're just like, yeah, other healthcare providers are like, that makes sense. This sounds
when
good.
You're confident in it, people don't question it too, though, right?
Yeah.
It's when you question it yourself that people start feeling like, oh, this is kind of strange, right? When you're like, no, this is how it is because this is what makes sense and this is what actually helps people. They're like, oh, okay, right? I get that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like we know from our experience that like, you know, because like that's the other thing, like the thing like long ago when I tried to do private practice and I was doing one-off sessions, I never got to like finish my plans with the clients. I never got to really see them like achieve the results they were looking for. And every single like individual appointment, I was just hoping that they would book another one at the end. Yeah. And so like the quality of that appointment wasn't the same.
So I guess we can put that as like the second thing you changed is moving from those one-to-one, one-off sessions, right? Yeah. That for some reason everybody's taught to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. And that's just, you know, that's just the way that we're brought up and the way that we're said it works. But it's like, we know, I don't, you know, I've spoken to like so many other dietitians who say the same thing. They'll be like, oh, like, well, you know, how do you follow up with your clients and how do you know, get them to book more or whatever? And I'm like, well, now I work completely differently so that I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So from a structural level, you changed, right? You went from, okay, I'm not going to offer one-to-one sessions anymore because they don't even actually help people anyway, right? Yeah. They don't even actually help people, right? We don't get to actually continue working with them. So we chuck that out the window. And then we we developed more of a program that was designed to help your specific niche, right, get to where they wanted to be.
Yeah, exactly. And like the freedom of that, right? Like having a program, like what I tell people is, you know, and I've designed it for my niche, not just the content, but like how it's delivered, because screen time is very challenging and can be like post-brain injury. And I remember, you know, being told sometimes by doctors like, oh, well, you need this, just like Google it. And I'm like, you don't know how hard that is for me to do. Like, I don't have an unlimited amount of time to just like read stuff on the screen. So like, something else my clients say. They're like, your stuff is so accessible. Everything on my website's recorded in audio. My entire program is like small chunks of audio
so that they don't have as much screen time, because this really affects people, right? With
yeah,
injury.
yeah, exactly. It's manageable. It's not this like big overwhelming thing. And you know, the content, like having a program, it makes it so that your clients can take in sort of like the education piece, or like the information, the knowledge piece. And then when you actually get together, you then use that time to actually make the change, overcome the obstacle.
And it's so much more transformational for people too, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. Like you know, because I can just remember those times in like one-on-one appointments where I spend it speaking at people, like educate, like giving my education and checking off my list. Whereas like, man, like, you know, having the program is just so much better, because it's like, great, you can take this in, and then now together we're going to do the actual work, and we're going to make this work for you. And it just allows people to actually make steps, and like quicker, I would.
Yeah. And it works so much better for them too, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is the third thing then that you changed?
The third thing, I think one of my favorite things, my bigger aha moments, was you know, going into your program, I assumed that I needed to have my program fully completed, put together, like up and running before I got clients.
Mm-hmm.
What a mistake that would have been.
Right. I think it's hard for people to believe, because they're like, I gotta have it all together. It's gotta be professional. It's gotta be beautiful. It's gotta be wonderful, and then I'll get clients, right?
It's like, no, that doesn't work. That's not what brings people in. And so, like, and not only that, but when I think about, you know, and like I have draft notes somewhere of when I think about what that program would have looked like before I started working with clients, I was like, man, that program would not have met people's needs in the same way. But like building that program while working with clients, my program is so much better. It like so much more meets their needs. And it's anyways, and it's, I mean, like, it's made me a better dietitian at the same time, because, you know, as much as I have the personal experience, you know, there's a saying, like, if you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain injury, because everyone's affected so differently. So, you know, I bring the personal experience, but then at the same time, like, working with more and more people and building my program alongside them has just been so much better, to being like, oh, okay, now I know what to do. Now I know what to better do.
Yeah. I think that's what's really made you like the expert now in nutrition for concussions and brain injuries. Like, I would say Krystal's totally the expert now. Right? You know? Remember when you were worried about, you were like, can I be the expert? And I was like, Krystal, you're going to be the expert. Right?
Am I allowed to? Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's that, you know, imposter syndrome of like, how ridiculous was it for me to think like, oh, my personal experience isn't useful.
I know.
Ridiculous. That is, people come to me and they're like, you get it. Like, they'll say to me, you're the first person who's ever validated that I feel this way, or that I have these problems, or that I have these symptoms, you know? Whereas they'll be like, you know, I go to my doctor, not to put down doctors, they're great, but just like, you know, they've gone to other people, and no one's brought up, you know, very important issues post-brain injury for nutrition, like appetite problems. People are like, you're the first person who said that, you know, that this is from the brain injury, and that we can do something about it. So yeah, it's anyways, it's been incredible. Like, I can't believe everything I've done with such limited ability too. Like, I think when I came when we met, you had asked me like, how functional do you feel
Because
you
we
are?
were trying to figure out, because I was trying to figure out how we could make this work for you. Because I heard your story and I was like, we got to do something for Krystal because she's in a tight spot now, right? That's not her fault. So we got to figure out something. And I was like, but what can she do, right? Because you were telling me all these different limitations that you had with the brain injury. And I was like, I think, like you said, I asked you kind of how much functionality of when you used to be 100%, right?
Yeah.
What do you have now, right?
Yeah. And at the time, I think I said like 50%.
Yeah.
Because I think I was like, at the time, I remember I was like, I can maybe work 5 hours a couple of times a week. Like, there wasn't,
Yeah.
a few times a week. And and even then there was, and through this journey, like, I've had times where, my symptoms just, for whatever reason have like,
Sure.
come back, and I've had to take days off. I've had to take like weeks off. But at the same time, like, I've been able to manage it
Yeah.
without like feeling like my business was,
I think that's so good too, kind of how you've structured everything, and we worked on structuring things for you too, so that you had the ability to do that because it is necessary, right? Because I know other people, maybe it's not concussions or brain injuries, it's something else that they have in their life where they can't work like a normal work week, right? And so it's the ability to be able to actually pull back for a bit, make sure that you take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Too, which is really important, right? We can't, you can't be a healthcare professional and then start hurting your health, right?
Yeah. It was like, I'm not going to be a bad boss to myself.
Right. You've already had those experiences in the past. You don't also need to be a bad boss, right?
Exactly. I'm not going to be a jerk to myself.
That's what I've told myself before too. I already had the bad experiences. I don't also need to be a bad experience, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, but no, you're right. Like, there are lots of people who have like other competing priorities or whatnot, and that time management, I mean, especially like when you don't know what you're doing. Like, I think I remember the first call we had, and you had said, well, what we need to do is we need to, like, you have such little energy. We need to actually invest that in something that's
going to make a difference, right?
Yeah, it's going to make a difference and actually have a return on investment.
Yeah, right.
Help you pay your bills, like, so that I do think about that a lot. Like, even now, like, there are times where maybe I'll get a bit overwhelmed because now I have more people reaching out to me than I did before.
I know.
Right? And so now I'm like, so sometimes I'll get overwhelmed, but like, some of the stuff like you taught me through like how to manage your day and how to prioritize and like, how to make sure you're still doing stuff that is going to keep things rolling. It's like, that calms me down a bit.
Right. So really quick, can you go into kind of where you see this going in the future, right? With your business.
Yeah. So right now I have my TBI Nutrition Masterclass, which is TBI's traumatic brain injury. So I have that up and running. What I'd love to be able to do is I'd eventually love to be able to train other dietitians, because right now, like, I don't really know anybody else who does this, which is fine. But like, at some point, this will become bigger than me. Like,
I love that, Krystal. It does. After you grow your business to a point, you're like, well, I did this and this has been good for me, but now I want to do something bigger, right? Just for like the expansion of what you're in, right? Or just general. Yeah, I love that. Continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Anyways, but like, in our sort of like dietitian support groups and stuff, it comes up like, I got someone with concussion, like, what do I do? And it's like, it's like, you could send them to me. You can send them to me. but yeah, like eventually this will become bigger than me, and I'd love for there to be I'd love to be able to train other dietitians who are maybe in other communities where their needs are a bit different or their access needs are a bit different. And so, they would be able to like take this and like build onto it. Yeah, I would love to see that. And that's kind of that's where I kind of hope it'll go, but we'll see.
I love it, Krystal. I'm super excited just to see, because I think it's been such a transformation in like a year and a half, probably now, right? A year and a half. And then think about what's in store in like another year and a half.
Oh my gosh, I never even considered that, but yeah, you're right.
Think about that, right? You know, it's pretty incredible what's happened in that amount of time, which when you think about it is really not that much time.
No.
It's not.
It's not. I mean, before I started in your program, how many months? It was like half a year. It was like 6 months, I guess, that I had tried to do my private practice on my own. And I had, I think, 2 clients in those 6 months, and
that was with the one-off session.
And that was with the one-off session. So it was kind of like, where's this going to go? Yeah. And then in 6 months, like in your program, I was already starting to build my program. I had clients had a niche,
yeah,
had a website, like So it's kind of a night and day difference.
I know, but that's what's so exciting, right? That's what's so exciting. So thank you so much, though, for sharing your story. I think it's going to be super helpful for a lot of other people, too, right? To hear about your journey and then where you are today, right? So I so appreciate you being here today and sharing everything